So she just made the comment, could have walked here from Burleson. You know, one of the things that is, if you're from Texas, you know, we do differently. We don't talk about distance in terms of miles, we talk about it in terms of time. And my friends who live, you know, in the East Coast or in other places, they'll talk about, oh, we live 5 miles from such and such. Well, we live 45 minutes from such and such. I discovered last night headed home that I live either about 55 minutes from Denton or 2.5 hours. So last night I went home, and the plan was my brother, who lives a little over 4 hours away from Burleson, was driving up, and this was the first time that they have made a trip with their toddler son and their infant daughter. And so he thought he still lived a little over 4 hours away from my house. He lives more like 6.5 hours away from my house right now. And so he was making his way toward Burleson on their way to a weekend trip and said, you know, we want to meet up with y'all and have dinner. And I was like, oh, awesome. We'll find a good restaurant. We'll find a place to do that. Well, after about the 5-hour mark and the 5.5-hour mark and the 6-hour mark, we said, just come to the house. And I think you guys probably need to sit down and stop twitching for a while. So as I was watching my nephew run circles through our house, holding a toy snake that he found and dragging my sons, who are all at least 6, 7 years older than him, he's dragging them around, and this is my nephew, Huck. Now, Huck's name was given to him for a very specific reason. My brother and I grew up in Madisonville, Texas. Anyone know where that is? All right. So we grew up on a ranch just we lived about 35 minutes from Madisonville, Texas, in a town where about 4.5 people have ever heard of it. It's called Singleton, and we lived on a cattle ranch. So we grew up in the woods and in the hayfields and all of that good stuff. But we've both moved on, and we live in the big city, which is, in and of itself, enough to disqualify us from our family line. We've almost been disowned for that. We would have been better off becoming liberals. Which, depending on who you ask, we have. So Adam decided to name his son Huck, because Huck is now the son of a professional who works for HEB. And so HEB's headquarters is down in San Antonio, and so Adam's in the big wig world of HEB, and he didn't want Huck to grow up away from his country roots. And so Adam said, I'm going to name him Huck because he'll have to remember that he's from the sticks if his name is Huck. And I've always thought Adam was cruel for that, but that's consistent with his personality. So not too long ago, I was sitting in my extremely comfortable office chair, which that office chair resides in my dining room because that's my office. And I was in my office chair, and I have this little this little helper, this minion of mine that is from Oklahoma. And he came to me and he says, wise counselor, friend of mine, the one who teaches me so many things, why do you wear boots when you live in Suburbia? Now, I live in Burleson, Texas. I don't live in Suburbia.
Yes, you do.
He's from Oklahoma, so he can't understand all of these, intricacies. And so, I told him, I'm from Madisonville. I'm from 35 minutes away from Madisonville. I'm from the land of cows, the land of hayfields. I'm from the land of this guy named Bubbles. And Bubbles was a guy I grew up with who I remember vividly the day that he jumped into a hog pen we were trying to get these 2 small hogs into a cattle trailer. And the sow that was in the next pen over, she's actually the heroine of several really good stories. But I only got 5 minutes though. Bubbles jumps in to this pen where there are these 2 small hogs trying to get them into a cattle trailer. We couldn't do it. We had tried. We had every imaginable approach except for Bubbles' approach because it was insane. We hadn't tried that. because we, unlike Bubbles, are not insane. And so Bubbles jumps into this pen, and I don't know. I was there, and I can't tell you how exactly this happened, but somehow Bubbles, using one foot, got this hog into the cattle trailer. Now, Bubbles is from Madisonville, Texas. And just so you know, Bubbles is called Bubbles because his effervescent personality that is non-existent. I don't think he's smiled or frowned one ever in the history of time. But Bubbles jumps and he moves his hog into the cattle trailer, and when he's done, his white denim jeans, because Bubbles is from Madisonville, Texas, and his white undershirt, which is not under anything, so it's technically a shirt, we're still, I don't want to say they're perfectly white, because he lives in Madisonville, Texas, and nothing's ever perfectly white. But they were the same level of white as they were before he jumped into the hog pen. That's where I'm from. And so sitting in my comfy office chair, talking to my poor beleaguered Oklahoma friend, and he says, "Why do you wear boots in Suburbia?" I said, "Because I didn't want to name my son Huck."